So, hello everyone. I think a few more people might be joining, so I'll just give it a few minutes before we start. In the meantime, if there is any assignments related question which you want me to discuss, something, please just type it in the chat box. Okay, you want an AEIOU map example. Okay. Okay, but this is from the course. I mean, like from the assignments, like previous assignments. If there is any particular question from the previous assignments that you want me to discuss, you have doubt or something, then let me know that. I'll just take all the questions and doubts on the assignments first, and then we'll go over the, the course material. So there are no questions um, from the course material. Sorry, from the assignments. Okay. Third question. Yeah, I saw somebody post this doubt in the forum also. Okay. According to me, I think, I mean, if they're both like the same options and you have checked both, ideally it should be correct because it's not a very complicated thing, but I don't know how what the settings are for it. So again, it is more of an administrative thing so that the content team can address that. I can just ask them to address that. But the answer, yeah, I mean, if you've checked both the options, which are the same, you can, like, I think, like, your answer is correct, basically. The other thing was you wanted an interaction map. There's an interaction storyboard and there is a system map. So which one do you want me to discuss? You've combined the two. So are you talking about interaction storyboard? Right. Okay. Because see, the two are different. Interaction storyboard and the system map. Okay. Let me open that. So did you go through the two examples which I uploaded in the folder for week 6 for the videos to be done, but advice was okay. Videos to be done. Didn't understand. What do you mean? Which videos?
Third assignment, when I checked the reference submitted by you, it had a lot of videos, like all the example, we were asked to do 3 tools. Like when I tried to do the tools, I understood that most of them are requiring us to do the video and then upload it.
No, you don't have to do a video. I don't know which part you are referring to, but what I uploaded was slides. I don't think I uploaded any videos there. So in those slides,
when I read what is to be done, they told make a video.
No, it's not a video. So in the interaction storyboard, for example, this is where did you feel like
I
they
am
said?
talking about assignment 3.
Okay, you're talking about MSDS assignment 3. Okay, you can select. Okay, I'll just read it out. Imagine a PSS for sharing clothes, jewelry, and other accessories. Now, imagine you have been given the task to design an SPSS around this shared service. You can also assume that you're going to be the entrepreneur behind this SPSS. You can select any kind of clothes and users. For example, the PSS can be around premium clothing, like the ones meant for wedding or regular, but branded wear and so on. The PSS can target the local market or be designed for a national footprint and so on. It can be for college students or office goers, etc. Clearly mention the kind of clothes and accessories and users for whom you are designing. Use the steps of MSDS discussed in this lecture and submit a report. You have to use minimum of 3 tools discussed in this week's lecture. Not following is a sample of how it has been done for a bicycle sharing service. The sample is only, there is no sample. Yeah. So I had asked them to look at it, but anyway, yeah. So where did you feel like you have to make a video? This is only a report, no?
One thing is, as per my understanding, in the notes, they are only talking about one. Strategic analysis is always studied by that time, MSD tools.
Right.
So it is only one tool, and so
no. You have not understood this. Okay, hang on. Strategic analysis is one step of the whole analysis which you do for MSDS. It is not a tool. Tools are what you are using to do the strategic analysis, like your Porter's
interaction
5
map.
interaction. It's not a map. Interaction storyboard, system map. Yeah, Porter's 5 forces. Then there are other tools also which you use in the beginning. So all these are the tools. The strategic analysis is a framework, and it is only the step 1 of the entire framework, which is MSDS. Are you understanding the difference?
Yes, ma'am. These framework only, when I referred to your notes, I understood that to actually complete the whole process, like the textile example they have given, we had to make videos of it.
No, you don't have to make videos. Where did you understand that from what I've shared? I've shared only lecture notes of another prof with you. In there, he has only given an explanation of what are the main tools. See, he goes with MSDS main tools. SDOs we haven't discussed in detail, but the other, he has only just discussed the same thing, right? He's just explained what it is. There is a system map, then all these icons and things like that. So he's only explained, like some part of it may be a video, but it is not necessarily, that is not necessarily the purpose. In the end, you have to make it like a graphic too, basically. You understand?
Ma'am, can you show an example of that?
Okay, all right. So see, all of these, I will just discuss that in detail once we discuss the whole thing. But see, the system map, interaction storyboard, they are all visualization tools. Okay, they are for you to understand, because see, this all these systems, right? We're talking about systems here. We're not talking about just one product and one manufacturer. A lot of these are very spread out, right? There are many players involved. So there's a user, then there are different stakeholders. So in all these tools, which is your system map or your SWOT analysis, they all help you collect a whole lot of information which is relevant for SPSS design in a visual way. because we are designers, right? We're here, even though you may be an engineer otherwise, but in this particular context, we are working as designers and we need to process a lot of information together. So these are basically visualization tools. So, like even in the lecture, in the week 7 content, some parts she's like explained that when you're conducting an interview, you may want to record a video or you may want to add it like in the form of a video, things like that. But the purpose is not like that you just record the video can be one of the ways in which you collect information or in which you record a survey, things like that. Okay, you sent me something.
Yes, so in that it says that the step is to make a video. Like that's where I got confused. So if I wanted to
Okay.
represent this as one of the tools,
Sustainability design, SDO, you're on the slides for SDO, is it? No, this is a separate thing. This is not okay. I didn't notice where this was in the whole slides, but whatever I'm
first
sharing.
page of MSD, it is not a like.
Okay.
That's
Hang
why I
on.
am referring MSD.
Yeah,
Tools.
I'm trying to find out which one because I uploaded 2, 3, right? So I'm trying to understand which one
It
you're
is titled
referring to.
MSD.
I got it. So yeah, so this one is talking about SDO, and he is doing this in the context of a DE. But this is not one of the things we have sort of studied in the class, so you can leave it out because there is a whole lot more to MSDS than what we have studied in the class. We have only studied, even in distributed economy, we have only studied SEE. We have not studied other types of distributed economies. We've not studied distributed management and things like that. So this one, what you are referring to, the third slide in this MSDS tools intro visually, this video, sorry, this slideshow. This one you can just leave it out. This one is not a part of the course structure. I shared this just because some of the parts I thought might be relevant, but if something is here which is sort of not very relevant to you, then you can just ignore it. You don't have to confuse yourself with that. Okay.
What about interaction table? Is it one of the tool?
Interaction table. Go design from this. I'm not sure if this is the same thing. So interaction table is like a variation on the interaction storyboard actually. So if the same thing you represent it in the form of a table, it is a you can call it a table. So you see just the format is different. But because we have not studied the interaction table in the class, you can leave it out. You can just look at the interaction storyboard. They're both capturing the same idea, but in an interaction table, they're just putting it in the form of a table instead. So this slideshow is confusing you. You can leave it. You don't need to refer to it.
I was just figuring out how to answer assignment 3.
See, in assignment 3, I'd explained this. You have to start with that basic framework of MSDS, which is discussed in the class. Let me just open that. Okay, where is this? Okay, I'm just going to share my screen. Okay, so this is the 5 stages of an MSDS. Okay, we only covered strategic analysis in lecture, week 6 content. Week 7, we are still on strategic analysis, but we are going to move to exploring opportunities. But we are doing this for a different setup. We're doing this mainly for a,
Socio-economic.
for a socio-economic ecosystem. So the method is different for a socio-economic ecosystem. So the rest of it we have not really covered so far. So you can just forget about it for these assignments at least. And strategic analysis, this is the process. Like I'll come to the table later. Just 1 minute, give me a moment. So in this basic, there are these general steps in any strategic analysis. And the aim is, of course, to understand, see, what are we exactly doing in a strategic analysis? We're trying to understand what are we even working with. Before you jump into some sort of a design and you start, creating a design of a product or a product service system, you need to first understand the whole existing product or existing system in the first place, right? And because all of these systems are very complex with many, many facets to it, that is why we use this process and these sub processes to capture it in a very systematic way, which we can actually use as inputs in our design. So in this process, first we understand analyze the project proposers, and we outline the intervention context. What's an intervention? What's a design intervention? Do you know what's a design intervention?
Method.
No, what do we mean by design intervention?
I think it's how we do it.
No, design intervention means that something is already existing, right? For example, you're using a product every day. Like, how can I say suppose there's a bicycle, okay? You're using it every day, and you want to improve it. There are certain problems you've identified in a bicycle. For example, there is very limited space to carry something on a bicycle, right? Like you can add a basket in the front, but it's small, it can't carry much, and you can add a carrier at the back, but again, it's not, it's not enough to carry much to it. So you want to improve the basic design of a bicycle so that you can carry more stuff on it. So you want to redesign the whole bicycle and maybe make it into an SPSS or something else to improve and add that functionality into it without making it difficult for the end user. End user is, in this case, the bike rider, right? So that change which you want to bring, that is the design intervention. You understood? Something is
Yes, sir.
existing the way it is existing, but you want to intervene and say, no, this is not how it should exist. It should function, it should have this functionality also, which is helpful for the end users, which end user wants. So then let us change the design in this particular way, and then you suggest a design for that. So that is a design intervention. Okay, so you understand what is design intervention now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. So now before we come up with such a design intervention, we need to also understand what is the design intervention needed, because in a very, very complex system, like we were taking the example of weavers and looms and all that. No, I mean, people like me in a city, I don't know much about a loom or about the life of weavers or about that whole ecosystem and how it works. So before I can even think of how I can improve that system, I need to first understand that system and who all are the stakeholders, who all are the people involved, or what we now call as the actors. So for that purpose, you have this first step: analyze project proposals and outline the intervention context. Then after you've done that, then you come to the context of reference, exactly what you in what way you want to address it. Then carrying structure, meaning what is the capacity of that system to support something. Then we see what are the existing sustainable practices and what are the best practice. Sorry, first we see what are the best practices of sustainability, and then we see what is the sustainability of the existing system and how we want to prioritize, because sustainability itself is a very big thing. Sustainability can be achieved in many ways and across many parameters. So we want to first also add like a priority list, or priority order, that this particular aspect of sustainability is most important in this particular place, and then second is this, third is this. Right, so this is a basic overview of strategic analysis. So week 6 is this first one, when there is one promoter or stakeholder who is the main driver. And the second is when it is a distributed system and there is no one primary stakeholder. So this table is what you need to first do for your assignment 3. You need to first make this table. This table is, use this table, and you need to fill out each part of this, right? Project promoter analysis and definition of intervention context, define scope of design intervention, blah blah blah. All this stuff, like for example, in this project promoter analysis part, this part, you can use any of these tools. This is the result you want. SWOT matrix, system map, all these you can use, or a questionnaire. You can use all of these to complete this part of it. You understood? Is it making sense? Am I answering your question?
Yes,
Yeah.
now I understood.
So this is the process. These are the 2 steps of the sub process. Just means it has 2 steps. You first design scope of design intervention, and then you do the project promoter analysis. Now to do this, what will you use? You will use either a SWOT matrix, or you can use a system map, or you can use a questionnaire, which you can capture as a mini doc. Then this is all the detail of all of this. SWOT matrix, blah blah blah. System map is this detail. This is how you use a system map. You use icons for different types of players, and then you make connections between them with different types of arrows. All that is a system map. Then all this we have done, I think. Okay, this lecture slide ends here. Then come to, yeah, so we finished project promoter analysis. Then we come to the second process we do, which is the reference context analysis. Okay, so now in this, again, there are 3 steps to it, 3 parts to it. So process just means it has 3 parts, that's all. So the first part is what we want to understand: production and consumption system analysis. So this also you can do in the system map itself, because system map actually has a lot of features which you can use for doing this type of an analysis. Then competitor analysis is model 5 Porter forces. This is the tool you're going to use for competitor analysis. And for client end user analytics, we use tools for exploring customer needs, which she's given later on in the thing, which is the means and chain analysis and the other one. So first she's talking now about step 1 is the market definition. So first you define the market, and then you do the means and chain analysis, and then depending on whether that is applicable or not, you do the needs and function analysis. So these are the 2 tools you're going to use in this exploring customer needs. We're going to use two tools. One is means and chain analysis or needs and function analysis based on what type of a market it is. Okay. Then we finished reference context analysis. Then we come to the system and its carrying structure analysis. This is not like a very complicated thing. So if for this, you can just use basic data available. You can see like it says, we can create some sort of a report or macro trend or overall. Basically, this is like a more like an industry level understanding of your PSS or your existing system. So you want to see, like for example, if you're designing something, say you take the example of a bicycle intervention, then you want to see what the industry for bicycles is like, what kind of things are picking up, what kind of things are not so popular, what is the price range, blah blah blah. So all those things go into the system carrying structure analysis. So what are the macro trends basically, and how does this affect our reference context and the design options? Like, for example, if you know a certain type of design or requirements are more popular right now, then you want to you know incorporate that in your design. Then you come to the fourth part, which is analysis of cases of excellence for sustainability. So in this, you can use the story interaction table or storyboard. Actually, she has mentioned table here, but I'm not sure if she has actually explained it somewhere also. So we just want to see what are the best examples of sustainability. For example, like in what ways can we build sustainability, and what kind of materials we can use, in what ways can we improve our processes, things like that. So for this, you can either use interaction table or a system map or an animatic. Actually, what you were showing me was the animatic, but we've not discussed it anywhere. So for now, I'm just leaving it. Or the sustainability design orienting toolkit. And this toolkit also, I think we've not discussed it anywhere, but I uploaded the Excel sheet in week 7 folder. So you know what it actually looks like. So this part is where we come to the interaction storyboard. Okay. So here we can just mention the actors involved, and based on whether they're consumer or producer or something else, you can just color code them based on that. And you can describe what is happening. So it's a storyboard. So you can describe what's happening over there. So she has not, I think, mentioned, like not discussed SDO anywhere properly. So I'm not going to go into it right now, because I think if you understand the overall, you would be able to get the SDO also. So then the last part is, of course, we analyze sustainability and determine priorities for the design intervention from the context of sustainability. So this is also not very complicated. Again, it has two parts. First is what is the existing thing from sustainability, and then second is defining the priorities. Now for both of these, we use the SDO toolkit. Then we started the strategic analysis thing, little bit more in detail for the what do you call it, SEE. So this whole framework is what you need to prepare, and for each step of this process or these things, you need to use one toolkit or whatever. You may use more than one if you want, but typically one toolkit. And I think that is what they're asking you. So is this clearer now?
Yes. Oh my God.
Okay, great. So what happened? Sorry. Okay. All right. So where was I? Okay. So let me come to So week 6, we have mostly covered this part. What else did you ask me? So is interaction storyboard clearer to you now?
Yes, ma'am. But I wanted to see one example. Is I am
Okay.
understanding like, how to color code and all. How would someone do it? Any
Okay.
done example would be.
So the thing is that there is no done example anywhere in any literature. I can try to do one for a hypothetical example, but it's not like existing anywhere. So maybe in some research paper somebody has done it, but or maybe somebody has used it in some project, but wait, let me check. It might be there in um, yeah. Just let me find if there is an existing example. So you can um, go through this whole site itself actually. Okay, this site has a lot of these resources. I didn't want to share it because I didn't want you to get all confused, but you can see that a lot of these things are kind of given here. Yeah, this does not have much. That's the problem. Okay, so this I'm not seeing any sort of um, example of that interaction storyboard per se, but let me just look at one or two of the case studies that may be some kind of might be there in the slideshow or something. Otherwise, I'll just show you something which is um, like hypothetical. Thought it would be better if it's a actual real world example, but here, let's see this. Yes, in all the projects, they've not actually shown any of these tools. Okay, if I find anything, I will show you maybe in the next class. But for now, I'll just show you the basic idea of an interaction storyboard. So at least you can use the interaction storyboard in other parts of it also, but I think at least in this particular example which we have seen, we are using it only to map the sustainability, right? Okay, so let me open my yeah. So interaction storyboard is basically something like, how you would tell a story, right? It moves from one to the other. Now assume that blue is user and green is provider. Not drawing icons because that's too much effort for me. And yellow is some other. Okay. Now let's take the bicycle example. So we can discuss this and then we can do this. So who is the end user in a bicycle?
Of the city.
Sorry,
People in the city.
in a city, not necessarily. You can also use a bicycle in a village. A lot of people commute from one place to another in a village on a bicycle, right? Over long distances, actually. So let's say there are two, three types of users of bicycles. Right? One is like, the worker or the laborers kind of users. So, for example, like this is just our side notes. It's not part of the interaction storyboard per se, because we've not done the other parts of the process. So should put it. Yeah. So for example, it can be laborers, it can be college students, it can be sort of, fitness enthusiasts who do it as a sport. And so these are three main categories, and there may be a lot of other people also, but these are the three main types of users we encounter. Okay, so let's take one. Let's take the fitness enthusiast, right? So, what kind of an interaction does a fitness enthusiast have with a provider? Do they have any interaction?
They can adjust the height of the cycle, make special cycles.
No, like what type of interaction? Do they come in contact with them?
Yes. If they want a special kind of cycle, they can go and interact with the provider.
No, they can't. Where do you buy a cycle from? A shop.
Yes.
In the shop, you have all brand cycles. That guy is only a distributor. He is not the manufacturer, right?
In my case, I did go to the manufacturer to get my seat height adjusted to my comfort.
Which manufacturer did you go to?
Trin. Like,
So that may be a special case, but in general, even for adjusting the seat height, you would not need to go to the manufacturer, because the guy who's selling the cycle can also do basic adjustments and repairs. So they would be able to do it for you. I'm just saying that in general, that is not how people kind of do it. So let's say, like, the provider sells it to the distributor, and you buy it from the distributor, right?
yes,
So if you want, actually, I've started at the buying stage. I should have probably started earlier. Well, this should come later. Okay, let's take a few steps back. Let's go back to where the at the design stage. So at the design stage, maybe the provider is sort of interacting with the users. They may be doing some sort of a survey or something, right? And you could be giving some feedback or something to them. The next stage is when they're designing, they're manufacturing. They have no interaction with the user at that stage, right? This is just your manufacturer here, and he's got other, other flows. I don't know what color to use for this. Yeah. So there are other flows into the system. He's manufacturing the cycle, but there is no interaction with anybody, right? At this stage, that other stage, this is where all the materials are coming in. So this is the stage where you could think of sustainable practices. Okay. Then in the next stage, you have the, I've just cut it very short. Okay. It's not very complicated what I'm making. I'm just trying to give you an idea. This is the, sorry. This is the this is the end user. This is, sorry, this is the provider. This is the end user. And this is that other guy. And as we discussed in the last stage, the user is buying it from the distributor and the manufacturer is selling it to the distributor. So in this case, you can see who is interacting with whom. This is a very simple interaction storyboard I've made for only 3 stages. I've not covered all the stages in, say, the life cycle for bicycle. That's also because our product is very simple. So in this stage, for example, in the first stage, here if you want to redesign, whatever we may have ideas of the design intervention, we can give those ideas to the person here, right? So what is wrong? So this can go like this. This is some information. Okay, this is some info. What are we trying to say? That, if for sustainability, you can get some users input. For example, like if the user wants, like I said, some storage capacity, or they want you to use some better materials, something like that, then this in this stage, you can identify what are the sustainability, existing sustainable practices or best practices in that stage. Then in the manufacturing stage, I've already shown all the inflows of materials and things. In this stage, actually the manufacturer does not have any interaction with the end users. And then the last stage, there's like very little you can do from sustainability point of view, except you can find maybe a selling model or market model which is more sustainable. So it's like just a very simple conceptual diagram I've drawn for a very simple product, just to show you what kind of a thing goes into an interaction storyboard. So is this clearer to you now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, because I made this just impromptu right now in the class, so I don't have a lot to add to it. But I just wanted to show you, like, what you're supposed to do in it. Now, in your example, like in your case study, for if you're making, I'm just making very simple design intervention in a bicycle, and I'm just trying to see how we can make it sustainable, or we can add storage to it. So, for example, like in the back, instead of a carrier, you can add a box made of some sustainable material which fits in the same way as a carrier, but inside that you can keep things which protect it from the rain and things like that. So that box can be flap closing kind of a box, can be made of any kind of recycled material. They have a lot of strength, many of these recycled materials. They also have insulating properties, so it would still protect it to some extent from the weather, forces of weather, and without increasing the weight too much. So you could keep simple things like a tiffin box or water bottle, or just simple keys, purse, something like that. So without adding too much to the weight, without adding too much to the cost, without altering the manufacturing process too much, you can actually create that kind of a design intervention. So here the user gave the input. Now these are just my annotated notes. This doesn't sort of go into the box. I'm just writing this as annotation. Then this is inflow of materials. Okay, so I'm just annotating this at the bottom so you know what is happening in the box basically. Now is the purpose of the interaction storyboard clearer to you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so what happens is you just use it as a tool to capture, see all of this information. If you write it down in one big long thing, neither you nor somebody else in your team might be able to decipher it very easily later on, right? And it may also take like long time to explain in words what is happening. But in a diagram with just simple arrows and simple annotation, we can actually capture that idea very quickly and very visually explanatory way, right? So this is the basic idea. You can use it for a very simple problem or you can use it for a very complex problem. Like what what we have as an assignment is not very complex problem, but it is relatively more complex than this one, where you have to design an SPSS for sharing clothes and accessories, and in that you can decide who are the end users, who are the providers, who are, you know, maybe some other distributors or something like that, who are the stakeholders. Then you can decide it. In this I've just made 3 steps, but you can, you know, add more steps to it if you think that is helpful, and then you can kind of, you know, uh, build on that. Okay, so what was the other thing you had asked me? You wanted some AEIOU mapping, I think, right?
Last week I asked about the cycle example.
Yes, let's go systematically. So what was actually, I opened that cycle example, but I didn't remember what your exact question was in that. So can you remind me what your question was?
Can we just repeat what was the outcome of that experiment?
What was the outcome of that experiment?
I understand that the cycles were made and he
Rickshaw,
gave,
you mean, right? The
yes,
rickshaw puller thing.
rickshaw, something like that.
Yeah. Yes. So they made these rickshaws and tricycle rickshaw design. So, yeah, what was your question again?
What happened in the end? Like, is it given to them? But who is the, like, I didn't understand the whole process only. Just understood that he made it, he designed it, it was out for the people, but the end part I didn't understand. He was talking about how they can come out of the vicious cycle of just going for the ride and coming back. And they were talking about the cycle being given to one of the person. Is it like that? That one of the drivers will get the cycle?
Okay, this information is actually not there on the page for the product. I looked at it. I only see the designs and the pictures of it being used and all that. And there's details about the design part of it, but I did not find any specific information that they actually gave it away to people or not. This is not there on the, yeah, it's not there on the product website itself. It
Ma'am
only
was
has,
but I
yeah,
didn't
sorry,
understand.
say again.
Ma'am was explaining it in the video, but I just got
Okay.
confused at the end.
So, see, that's why, because you have a very specific question, it's better if you post your exact question with which slide and which lecture in the discussion forum. So I can at least refer back to it, because see, I remembered you asked me something and I went through it, but I did not remember your exact question. Okay.
Yes.
1 minute.
Next week we can.
Yeah, so in this, like, you know, because you have to go to one specific lecture video at a specific time, because lecture videos are like 50 minutes. So I will need to just look at that before the class. And if you can post it in the, you know, discussion forum, then I can just do it very quickly before the class. Otherwise, it takes a long time for me to figure out what you're asking, where it is, which week content, because we discuss several weeks in the T8 class. So this, you can look at this. You just want to refer to the design, you can refer to this.
Madam, just one example of AEIOU mapping. Just one example, if we can take, just illustrate how to sketch that out.
Okay, so I will discuss AEIOU mapping right after this. I was just covering the remaining part, whichever is left over from earlier assignments. So can we move forward? So I've given you the link for that, what do you call it? That Dipban, the cycle rickshaw, the design product page.
I'll go through.
Yeah, so just go through that and you can tell me exactly what your question is in the discussion forum. And if you ask something on the lecture video, you tell me which lecture video and at what timestamp she's saying something and what you're not understanding in that. Okay.
Yes.
So I've given another link for this Swal Kuchi. If you want to just have a very quick overview of what it is and what it looks like without having to watch the whole thing, or even after watching the whole thing, if you just want a visual reference for it, you can just look at this link. It's a very nice link by Google. They've created a page for it, arts and culture segment of Google. Or it was something nice you guys could look at. Okay, let's come to AEIOU mapping. This is okay. This is lecture 2, I think. Yeah. Right. So first, before I go into AEIOU mapping, so this is a tool we use specifically only for a socio-economic ecosystem analysis, and within that, let's share this screen. So yeah, so you can see my screen, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so this is the part where AEIOU mapping is used as one of the tools. Okay, because it's not like the absolute thing or something, it is just one of the tools we use to understand project actor analysis. And the project analysis itself has 3 parts to it. First is the initial preparatory questionnaire, in which we use the awesome actors tool, right? Now, I'll just touch on the awesome actors tool also, because it's kind of different from what we're doing and it's important to understand how. So how do you think the awesome actors tool is different from AEIOU mapping? So you've gone through the awesome actors tool, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So what do we do in the awesome actors tool?
We make a chart.
And what is there in the chart?
They're talking about how the seller gets to talk to the customer directly and then know the like updated needs of the people and keep giving new designs so that they don't get like washed out.
Sorry,
of idea.
what part are you explaining?
The example given below that.
For what?
I'll just open my notes, ma'am, and wait.
Okay, no, but for what? Which topic are you explaining?
I was trying for awesome actors tool only.
Okay, so what you're explaining is not actually the Awesome Actors tool. So see, in Awesome Actors tool is what we are first trying to understand who are the people we are designing for. We are not going into a whole lot of granular information about them. First, we want to know who are these people, right? Like you have the awesome actors. This is why Awesome Actors tool comes first. Then we do the AIOU, whatever mapping later. Okay. So there are some knowledge actors, production actors, service, finance, administrative, market, blah, blah, blah. So right here you can mention this is the categories. Okay, knowledge, production, service, blah blah. They are the categories of actors. In your context, who are these people? So for us, like in the so Alkuchi system, the knowledge actors are the weavers in themselves, right? Is that correct? They protect traditional knowledge. So we are going to just write who weavers, right? Then there is an institute which is offering some knowledge and blah blah blah. So you can write that name of that institute. For the production actors, they are the householders or the small entrepreneurs and the weavers because they are also sort of involved. Who are the service actors? Maybe there is some some sales happening or some door-to-door sales or some market sales or something. So somebody may be carrying the goods or maybe distributing the goods or whatever. So they are the service actors. Finance, for example, they go to some local village bank, Grameen Bank or some such bank, which gives them small loans, right? Or they may be having some local lender because many of these places they also have a local. I know you people want me to discuss AEIOU tool, but uh, I need you to first understand this particular awesome actors tool before I can explain that tool. Since nobody gave the explanation, that's why I'm discussing this because this is important. Advice from here, you can't jump to AIEOU. So for finance, it can be a local lender or it can also be like people borrow from each other or they have a system of borrowing. So in many villages, in the small very very small micro industries, they have their own local methods of credit, microcredit, right? So in that case, all the people who are involved in that microcredit, they will all become finance actors, not just the bank. Administration is of course at the government level, which some local body or some municipality or somebody, whoever, MLA maybe. So depending on whoever is the local authority there, in what role are they playing? So first, we just mention all of these names. Who are the people who are playing these roles? Service, production, finance, blah, blah, blah. Contribution is what is specifically are they doing? Service actors, they're selling the goods, for example. Finance actors, they're providing credit. Administration, they are creating maybe, the policies or they're creating bylaws or something that allows them to sell this for this industry to work. Knowledge actors, they're adding knowledge, right? Production actors, they're building the goods. So contribution means what are they doing? Value is added. What value are they adding? Their value may be beyond just the contribution they're doing. Like there may be there, for example, the local women may be just keeping the whole place together without their contribution being able to be measured in tangibles, something else. Right? So those kind of things come into values. Motivation is like, what is motivating them to do this, right? Why are they doing what they do? What problems are they trying to solve? So you just know the basic things like production actors, for example, maybe they're short on time, or maybe they have problem procuring materials, maybe they have they are disconnected from their target audience, so they don't understand what type of designs to create. There could be any number of problems. And challenges may be like, maybe if somebody has health issues, maybe there's some other issue, there's flooding or whatever, there may be n number of challenges which makes that job difficult for them. And tools used, or how do they interact with others? So this is the awesome actors tool, which just gives us a very superficial basic understanding of who are the people we are designing for. Because in a distributed economy, we are not designing for any one person or any one user. So in this, the Swalkochi example she took, there's no one user you can pinpoint who is the most important person in the whole thing, right? Because it's an ecosystem. So we can't just say that, okay, you need to understand the needs of the end user or you need to understand the needs of the producer, and that's it. In a normal system, you have a producer, you have a consumer, and that's pretty much it. There may be some other players, but here it's not like that. So you need to understand all the actors over here. Then we come to the this, then we come here, right? So in this, the awesome actors tool helps us identify actors and what activity or other different aspects of their activity. Now then we come to the last step, which is project actor and activities. Then we are not just understanding who the actors are. In this, we've already understood that. Right now, we're trying to understand in a very detailed way what are the needs of each actor and how they fit in with each other. Right. So this is first we do the empathy mapping, in which we in a very detailed way we try to understand, say, the weaver as a person. Right. What are the things he's inspired by? What are the likes and dislikes? What are his challenges, or what are the things he's trying, what is the problem he's trying to solve, but on a much more, see, what do they think and feel, what do they see, what do they hear? We're trying to understand what kind of a life they are living, right? First we understand we try to empathize with them, meaning we try to understand what their lives are really like beyond just the action of weaving, for example, even if they are weavers. So then we first try to understand all of this. Then we come to AEIOU mapping. So there is a sequence to it, right? So in this, so this is the basic table which you can refer to. This is a basic table. That's why it's called AEIOU, because that's how they have named it. It's very convenient. So in this, these are the 5 things which we want to map or understand, right? So she started with the users in the end because that is kind of where the whole game starts. So that was the table. This is there, like, there are 3-4 aspects to it. I'm just seeing where should I start. Okay, so I think this part might be a, so is this table clear to you, by the way, or should I explain this also? Should I explain the table?
Yeah, okay, madam. I understand the broad meaning of each of the terms, but
Okay.
how to interpret.
Yeah, I'll come to the map. Okay, sure. Danya, is the table okay?
I think we can revise and go.
Okay, so okay, then give me a 2-minute break. I'm just coughing a lot, so I'll just speak in 2 minutes. Is that okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, so I would recommend that you open this, PDF thing in front of you, the lecture slides for week 7, because I can't share two screens at the same time, so I'll just share my, the writing pad thing, but keep this open also in front of you so you can understand what I'm talking about.
Yes,
This
ma'am.
is week 7, lecture 2 slide share, slides of the lecture notes. Okay, this is like I think it's there. Do you have these lecture notes?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I'll stop sharing this and I'll start sharing. Okay, I don't know why it's not working. Should be working. Okay, now it's working. Okay, so let's open the AEIOU mapping. So for example, we want to take different users and we want to discuss you want to understand how they are all interacting with each other, and we want to understand at the same time what kind of activities they are doing, what kind of interactions they are having, what kind of environment they're living in, what are the objects they're using. So for the I think the simplest example would probably be if we take the case of a weaver. Because I don't know this particular case study too well, so I may not know all the answers. Okay, so here it says user 1, user 2, user 3, because we are not doing this mapping hypothetically. Okay, now for weaver 1. Okay, for example, like you are out in the field, you're actually collecting data. See, there's a component over there in the AEIOU mapping where you have collecting data, also the table, right? You're talking to different types of people and you're trying to understand each of their problems and all of that. So you're doing this for each input you're collecting. So you're not making this as a general thing for all weavers, for example. Okay, you're doing this for each input. At least that's as far as my understanding goes. That you're not doing this as a generic thing, which you use for all of it, but you're doing this based on each input which each user is giving. I mean, you could do a similar thing also for all weavers if you think it helps you understand the problem better. But at least as far as I understand it, we do it for each input, for each data input. So you have one weaver, you talk to him. Now I'm going to give some hypothetical scenarios because I'm not from Assam and I don't know this whole tradition very well. But that is the example we have used so far. So I'll just continue with that example instead of starting a new example. So now we need to first set a little bit of a legend based on which we will decide what arrow or what color things to use where. Okay. So say suppose I first pick out a whole bunch of colors, all of which will be used for different things. Say I use green for interaction. So when I'm using a green arrow, it means they're interacting, right? Maybe I use blue for environment. So whenever I use a blue arrow, it means I'm pointing to the related environment. Say I use yellow for objects and I use orange for activities, and I can use for users. Okay, so you can, of course, so this viewer should actually be this. So now we have a basic setup ready where we know what we are going to show with which color. All we have to do is decide what are the activities this person is performing, what are the objects he's using for those activities, and what environment are those activities happening, and what are the interactions he or she is having with other users. So let's say we continue with this part first. Right, so there are, say, suppose other users. Okay, and he's having some interactions with them. Sorry. Oops. What did I do? Okay. So this much will be clear that, you know, when you are trying to show how this person is kind of interacting, it will mostly be with the users or with the environment, right? There are 5 components in this, right? AEIOU. Now, U is users. So what will we have put one particular user center stage here, right? We put one particular user, viewer 1. We're focusing on user 1 right now, which is viewer 1. Now, what interactions he or she might be having? This color thing is very confusing, man. So, oh God. So this is, say, suppose viewer 2. This may be, say, seller. This may be, say, the entrepreneur. Okay, I'm putting it in short, but say suppose these are the people he's interacting with, right? Now, these green arrows show that he's actually interacting with them, right? Is so far clear to you, or is it making sense, or is it completely not making any sense at all?
Yes, ma'am, it's clear.
Okay, so now we've identified who are the people this particular viewer is interacting with. There may be some other viewer, his neighbor, or some other viewer who works on another shift, perhaps. There may be a seller as in the person who takes all the saris from him and goes and sells it in the market or to people or whatever. So he may be talking to the seller. There may be the entrepreneur who owns the loom and the business and who pays him, basically. So there may be one entrepreneur, there may be 2 also, like 2 people who are entrepreneurs who he works with. So this is, say, entrepreneur 1. There is maybe another entrepreneur 2. He's interacting with both of them. Okay, this is not intentionally broken line. It is just ended up drawing. So who all can it interact with? He interact with. So firstly, he can either interact with other users or he can interact with his environment. Right now, environment can comprise of a whole lot of things. Now, since again I don't know this particular scenario very well, don't take this as the complete thing because this is based on actual data, right? Now what I am doing is hypothetical, but what you will be doing in any proper AEIOU mapping will be the actual information based on asking questions to people, observing them, making the empathy maps, making the other maps, and seeing what they're doing in the field out there. Okay, so again, I'm repeating this again and again just so you remember that this is not supposed to be hypothetical or your own concepts of it. This is supposed to be based on actual data. Just write this here. So that we don't get confused. Okay, now environment can have many components. Now, I'm just drawing them as bubbles like this, but there can be many aspects. I've drawn only 3 because I don't want to just cover my whole whiteboard with just that. But what it can be in the environment, first is of course his immediate surroundings, his workplace, which is environment. Then of course you can say what kind of if there are any emissions in that place, if there is any vegetation in that place, there's any natural surroundings, right? I'm giving you examples. Okay, they may be there, may not be. The workplace will be there, but anything else may be there, may not be there. It depends on what is actually there. So you can see that the user is interacting with this, but the user is not interacting with this in some vacuum, right? They may be doing this through some activities. Now that is the part which, okay, let me fix this like this. Okay, so let's create a little space here and let's go here. So he is doing some activity here, some activity here, some activity here. So these are just different activities. I'm writing in black because I don't think it might be very visible. Okay, so this is actual work, which is weaving. Okay, emissions, he may be consuming, like he may be inhaling it. Like say suppose there's somebody continuously cooking or there's some chemical process somewhere, so he's doing this, he's like while working, he's inhaling while working this. Vegetation, maybe he goes out for a walk, or maybe as a part of collecting the moth. Natural surroundings, again, maybe when they are collecting the whole thing and he's sort of watching it or supervising whatever, right? I'm just giving you very arbitrary, very simple ideas of what it could be, but it could be something else also. Or you can also have one activity and 2 environments. You don't need to have this at all. Then you can just remove, since it's the same activity which I've put in both. So the same activity connects to 2 environments, right? So this is just some examples of the activities. Now, as a part of some environments, for example, here I put workplace, right? So when he's weaving in his workplace, he has to use certain tools, he has to use certain objects to fulfill his role. So then he will be using maybe some of the tools, right? And this connects like this. I'm not putting other objects everywhere else because I don't know what objects would go there, but this much at least we all know that he will be using some objects to do his weaving. So say suppose one is a loom, then you have those punch cards, right? Uses those punch cards. Then you may be having some other hand tools they use and so on, right? So this is a very basic map what I have made, but it gives you an idea of how you go about creating these type of mappings, right? You can make it as simple or as detailed as you like. That is basically up to you. So even these activities, I have put one activity, weaving. If you want, you can break it down into different activities. Similarly, tools, you can list like 15 or you can list 5. All this is literally like up to the person who's doing the survey and who's analyzing the data. This is up to you. And also about how much granularity you can get in your data, because sometimes people may be impatient. They may not be willing to answer like a 3 dozen questions. They can just answer maybe 10 questions or something, and then they get impatient. Or like we discussed in the lecture that they may not have enough time. Like even if you're doing the interview in their spare time, like they want to use that spare time for sleeping or eating or relaxing. They don't want to spend 2 hours answering your questions. So whatever be the scenario, you try to do the best you can in that scenario. And if you are lucky, if say suppose you're compensating them or something, then they may not mind answering. So you can make this very, very complicated, or you can make it very simple just for your understanding purpose. And this mapping is necessary because, say suppose we want to understand some sort of a design intervention we want to use, like we want to change the way they use punch cards, or we want to completely change the punch cards. We want to, like we discussed, right, they're made of cardboard, and they want to it's not just that it's a big wastage for them, but it's also a cost for them. And it is a wastage. Again, wastage is not only a problem from sustainability in that way that it hurts the environment, blah blah blah, but also for the person who owns the enterprise. That's so much waste generated every day, which they need to dispose of, and which doesn't really help them in any way. They have to figure out a way to dispose of all those punch cards, and they have to buy so many cards all the time to just make one sari, right? So say suppose you want to change the punch cards entirely, you want to use some other material. You need to know who all are using that punch card, where is it being used, in what way is it affecting the whole system. So now in this particular, at least as per this diagram, it may be wrong, but at least as per this diagram, you can see that the punch cards are mostly used in the workplace, and they are used by the weaver. At least as per this diagram, nobody else is using the punch cards. See, for example, in this, you see this users, right? Now, say suppose this punch card is used by the other weaver also. So then you can also connect here, right? It's not, although my main focus is weaver 1, but he's also interacting with weaver 2, who is also using the hand tool. So you could connect it like that also. It's up to you. Similarly, he may be interacting with, say, some other user, say he's some seller, right? This is some seller as in seller of parts. Okay. He's interacting with seller of parts, and this particular person who's selling the hand tools is also using the hand tools. I mean, they're also coming in contact with the hand tools, so to say. Sorry, why have I connected the hand tools? It should be to the card. Sorry, just I just drew it wrong, that's all. It can become a bit messy, but I think you understand what I'm trying to say, right? The seller of parts is also selling them the punch cards, and the other weaver is also using the punch cards. Let's say suppose there are 2 shifts, or there are 2 weavers, they're all using the same punch cards, and the seller who is making the punch cards is selling them to the place, and the weaver is talking to the seller of parts. Now, so you see, you can keep building this based on what level of granularity of data you want and what data you have. Like, I'm just building this on the go because I'm trying to still understand this whole thing. But for someone who's in the field, for them, this is like, what they will be observing and capturing. And then this part is kind of helpful in analysis. right? So I'll come to the analysis part, but is this much clear to you now? What you need to do in an AEIOU mapping?
Yes, ma'am. But should we connect, like the last connection, should we connect it like user to the object if needed?
See, this is basically how you decide whether, this is a judgment call, at least as per me. I don't know what's in the literature, but these are things which are mostly judgment calls. Like, if it helps you understand your design intervention better, then I don't see why you shouldn't. For example, these two weavers are just shifting, like, they're just on two different shifts in the same establishment, in the same place, and they're not working at maybe the same time. They may also be working at the same time, but maybe they are, alternating days or alternating two shifts. They're both using the punch cards, and if my design intervention interest is, say, suppose punch cards, then it is helpful for me to understand that this other weaver is also using the punch cards, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So that is if I'm, say, suppose my focus is not on punch cards, then maybe whether you draw this or you don't draw this, it may not make a difference. But it in this particular context, it kind of just helps me understand that this user is also using the same object, right? And that may be affecting weaver one also, right? Because there are two users using the same punch cards. So maybe he's not happy about that, right? Or maybe he feels that reduces the life of it, or whatever. I'm just thinking aloud here. But the main thing what I'm trying to explain is that this is mostly a judgment call and depends on your data, depends on your context, depends on your design problem. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so this is just the mapping part, and then you can, I mean, this is the analyzing part. Then there is other way of analyzing also, which is, she's drawn those circles. So you can draw, the whole thing. There is a certain, this is just different levels. Okay. Okay, so this is not exact concentric circles, but just assume that they are. For our purpose, they will suffice, I think. Oops. So in this particular part, say suppose this is, you can think of it as a problem or an opportunity. And we want to understand how different actors are affected by it. So this is direct contact. This is their affected. This is their influencing it. Okay, so the impact kind of goes in this direction. Okay. Oops, sorry, not this. Okay, this part I just wanted to explain that in this diagram where we are analyzing who is in direct contact and who is affecting it and who's influencing it. So the people who are in direct, the yellow arrow means that people who are in direct contact will also affect it and will also influence it. So you could also just think of it in this way, I suppose. I wanted to what I want. Okay. So these are the people who are in direct contact with the opportunities. sorry, with the thing. They can affect it also, and they can influence it also. Okay, the people who can affect it, suppose I use yellow for it, lavender, are not in direct contact with the problem or opportunity. So they can affect it and they can influence it. Okay, so this is sort of what this coloration is supposed to mean. And then the people who can only influence it. So, for example, there are people who can only influence it. They cannot affect it and they are not in direct contact. They are only in this outer circle. So, this is a very rough sketch, but it kind of helps clarify the circle of influence a little bit better. I don't know if this is making it clearer. Are you able to understand? Do you understand what I meant by this coloration?
Yes, ma'am.
Right? So direct contact means, I suppose the weavers are in direct contact with a certain problem in the loom. They can, of course, they're in direct contact, but they can also affect it, means they can directly affect how, if they want to change a very small part of the loom, they can do that. Because they're in direct contact and they can affect, they can, you know, they are affected by it. Sorry, not affect. They are affected by it because they are the ones whose life is affected by it. And they can also influence, meaning they can suggest improvements, they can suggest changes. So they're in all three categories, right? Maybe there is a seller, who's selling the saris. He's not in direct contact with the loom, right? But he is affected by it. If the loom is not working properly, maybe they're able to make fewer saris, so his sales are affected by it. So because he's also affected by it, and he can influence, he can go and tell the weaver or the entrepreneur that, look, you need to fix your loom problem so that we can bring up the productivity rate, otherwise you will lose money and I will lose money, right? Now the end user, the person who's buying the sari, they cannot really do anything about the loom, right? And they are not directly affected by the loom, they're just getting the sari. But if they want to tell the mm, the seller and then hence the person who owns the enterprise that, look, we want a different type of feature or we want a different type of color in the sari or something like that, they can go and change that in the loom. So they can influence, but they're not like directly affected, um, or in direct contact with a particular problem. This is a very crude example. You can get much better examples maybe in some better situations, but since, like I said, I have only so much familiarity with this and it doesn't make sense to come up with a new situation right now. So I'm just giving an example, but for explanatory purpose. But hopefully it will, like, make the thing a bit clearer. So is it clearer?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Oops. Just trying to improve. Because I'll share these notes with all of you after the class. So I'm trying to just make it a bit more legible. Yes. People see it afterwards, they may not understand it. Okay, so this was what? Okay. So any other questions on this? Because
No, ma'am.
this sort of covers the AEIOU mapping. What you can do, I've just colored it here, but if you want, you can kind of, you know, you can like, put your users, different users in different places. So this person is in this place. There's somebody else who's in this place. So you can give different color codes to different types of actors, and you can just mark them on the whole map, and that will just help us understand in which category they're falling. So for example, there's something in the middle, and we know what the problem, opportunity, whatever it is, and these are the three circles. Now you know what these green, yellow, pink are, dots are, so you can sort of use the same kind of color coding here for different actors. And for your particular example, your case study, you can just explain what category they are in. So it may be different, like it's not necessary that the end user will always be able to influence. In some cases maybe they can't, right? So the idea is to understand what is happening in your, say suppose this is a knowledge actor. I'm just giving you one way of going about it. I'm putting it based on the category of actors. You can also use actor names also, right? Some other user maybe. This person can be something else, right? So similarly, you can do the same thing for a more detailed analysis. This is again based on actual data. Okay, it's not hypothetical. For your particular case, you can see which category they are falling into. Once you understand the whole ecosystem, once you understand the whole way it works, you can map this out. And this, you can do this either before or after that mapping. So this will help you understand, because which one is in direct contact, which one is not in direct contact, which one is just basically just influencing, which one is not even influencing. So this is out of boundary. You can mark people out of boundary also, like maybe there is some other actor, player, whatever, who is not like in any of these categories, and you can explain what their role is, whatever, what this blue dot is, you can put here, somewhere here. Okay, so you can map it like this. So that way, if you're designing for solving, say suppose this particular problem opportunities, then you understand who all it is affecting, who all are going to want to influence it or have the capacity to influence it, who all are actually directly in contact with it, and so on and so forth, right? All of these have some design interpretations, some design implications for us. We're not doing this just for the fun of it. So you should remember that all of this is supposed to eventually lead to some sort of a design intervention or some sort of a design takeaway. Then it kind of makes a lot more sense, right? That we are putting these here. Why are we making this map at all? Because say suppose there's a certain problem, certain opportunity for which we want to come up with a design intervention, then this kind of a mapping and analysis helps me understand who all is my design affecting. Say suppose I make a new design over here, and I don't know who is in direct contact with it. I don't know who all are affected by it, and I don't know who all can even influence it back. Say I make a new design, and somebody who I don't even know is part of that ecosystem comes and says change it, and the entrepreneur wants to change it. So then I'm like, I don't even know that this component existed in that whole ecosystem. But when you make this kind of an exhaustive analysis, you know who all you are designing for and who all are playing what role in that PSS design, right? So that is where this kind of a tool comes in very handy. Okay, so I'll share um, these doodles with you in the same folder for week 7. Maybe I'll even put it in the PPT, so if it helps in explanation part. Okay, so anything else? Any other questions?
Can we get feedback on assignment 2 of each week, like written along with the marking or something like that, so that we know where we are going wrong?
So I'm not involved in that team. So, I don't think I can do much about that, because the team which creates and evaluates the assignments and submits the solution is a different team. And they do things as they see fit. So did you get any grading for assignment 2 of each week so far?
Yes, ma'am. 2 of the assignments are graded. Week 3 and 4 are graded.
So this is the assignment, not the quiz.
Yes, ma'am. Second part.
Okay.
Assignment.
Okay. So for that, you mean you want some feedback for why you got the score you got?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I mean, I can only suggest that you post it in the discussion forum. They will take a look at it. I can try to ask them, but again, I mean, it really makes a difference only if you guys post it. My asking doesn't entirely make a huge difference there. So um, so she has uploaded, I think, a sample project now. There is some sample project which you were saying was missing, right? Week
Yes,
6.
they emailed us saying that they will upload it.
Yeah, so I think they have just uploaded it. You can take a look at it. So that will hopefully answer your questions. Using MSDS, so she has uploaded it. So they have uploaded some sample project for bicycle sharing SPSS. Should have actually come earlier, but anyway. Okay, so this will hopefully help you a lot.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Yeah, this is kind of helpful. You can look at it, I think. So they have covered the whole thing, the different weeks. Week 6, 7, 8, the same project is continuing, I think.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
I've uploaded the SDO toolkit, the Excel sheet. Don't use it with Google Sheets, because I think the Google Sheets does not have the the whole functionality in it. So use that Excel sheet only,
Yes, ma'am.
and you can try it out. If it doesn't work very perfectly, I would suggest zooming out a bit, like view it on a slightly lower this thing percentage. Okay. Okay. Anything else? Any other questions?
No, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, so this part is done. So I would suggest that you take a look at the the SDO toolkit which I have uploaded, and I did not get much time to um, discuss any practice questions for this particular um, week's content, but the previous weeks I had uploaded it. So did you get any chance? Did you go through the questions?
Yes, ma'am. It was kind of similar to what was asked in the assignment also.
Yes, so I didn't want to give MCQ because that is kind of like defeats the purpose of it. I mean, MCQ is fine, but I actually wanted to discuss it in the class. Okay, either way. So I just wanted these things to be sort of clear to you. So, like, for the all these are the kind of like the important aspects of week 6. So if you understand these, then the week 6 content will be much clearer to you overall. And the coming weeks also it will be a lot more clear, because without understanding these, the next week's stuff will be a bit difficult. So for example, like the KFPS knowledge mining tool, um, and this is the continuation after the after you have the other tool, the AEIOU mapping, and then value opportunity analysis and all of that. And then we go into the frog design collective action toolkit. So have you downloaded the frog design collective action toolkit, the original toolkit?
Not yet, ma'am.
Okay, it's a pretty long PDF. It is some 86 pages or something. You don't have to like, it's just like spread out over a little bit more space, but it will be helpful if you go through that. Although, I mean, most of the relevant parts are already sort of there in the lecture notes. Yeah, it is sort of summarized in the lecture notes, but it is still sort of helpful if you go through it, uh, because you might discover that like some things a little bit more detailed there, so that might be helpful. Because in the lecture notes, like they've sort of compressed 5-6 slides into one slide, so then that part is kind of going faster. But in the original toolkit, it is just a lot more detailed, so there's a little more explanation there, right? So if you feel a bit stuck in, say, some particular part, or something is not looking very clear, then reading the thing in the original toolkit will help you, because they have given explanations for each step and each sub step and everything. So it's pretty lengthy. That's why I wasn't very sure if we'll have time to discuss it in the class. But I would suggest that you do go through it once, the original toolkit. And the link which is given in the lecture slides is good, so you can use that link to download the original toolkit. And um, then you just need to basically enter your email and name and all that stuff. It's available for free. You can download it from there. Okay, so after the whole the knowledge toolkit thing, we come to the intervention. And in this, hopefully this is clear that we go to the competitor analysis. For competitor analysis, we use the same tool. There's no special tool for this. So mostly we use a Porter 5 forces analysis, or we do a more general analysis on the level of like, their budgeting and their um, the difference, product differentiation, perhaps, those type of things. Then we come to, this whole diagram is there, the competitor analysis, like what kind of, who are the competitors, and direct competitors, indirect competitors, blah, blah, blah. So you understand the competitor analysis, right? Apart from just the 5 forces thing. Did you understand competitor analysis? This is lecture 2, week 7, slide number 24.
Basically understanding who are the competitors and on what basis are they the competitors.
Yes, and what all are the similar or substitutable products in the market, and what level of competition they're at. Like some maybe like the Coke and Pepsi kind of thing. They're exactly the same product, almost exactly the same product, and they're just different brands. Then there may be like you can get some other cola drink, and then that is that is still a substitute. Then which other products would compete with it? There would be something like a generic beverage, right? So all other beverages could be all types of beverages, not just soft drinks. So first level would be, say, for Pepsi would be Coke, thumbs up. Second level would be all soft drinks. Third level would be all beverages. So all kinds of beverages. And then of course the last category is just the user may just prefer to not spend money at all. They may just like keeping that money in their wallets or in their banks. So that is always the the last final category. That is it something which even kind of fits the user's budget? Like, is it something they have budgeted for, or if not, they may want to just leave it out of their budgets. So that is the entire spectrum which you would need to kind of consider in competitor analysis, and from there you can kind of detail it out, right? Like in slide 25 she's tried to do that for the Swalkuchi handloom thing, and so you can see like there are some other handloom sort of local ecosystems which could be competitors, and there is like other types of silk, some generic thing, and then some other kind of items which would fit in that same budget, right? So that is the spectrum for the class example. Now you will of course need to probably do something like this for your assignments. I think it is there in your assignment also. So the rest of the part, so we only covered the first 2 steps so far, but in the rest of the part, see the system structure carrying analysis of cases of excellence and sustainability, and analysis sustainability and determine priorities. They are more or less similar to what we did for the previous case, for the one primary stakeholder case. So we studied all this in week 6, right, for the primary stakeholder case. Now we are now doing this whole analysis again for the socio-economic ecosystem case. So apart from those first 2 processes which are kind of different for SEE, this last part, step 3, 4, and 5, you can see the last slide in lecture 2 of week 7. This is pretty much the same, maybe some slight difference, but it looks very similar to me. There's not like a whole lot of difference there, because this is like covering the portion which is already some in kind of like a slightly broader sense. You're sort of zooming out and you're looking at what the whole system, like what that industry is like, or what are the good practices for sustainability, and what is the scope for improvement. So those are like a more broader perspective things. So those aspects are kind of the same for SEEs. Okay, so I think that kind of covers it. So any other questions, or can we end it here?
No questions.
Okay, so you will be able to do the assignments now?
Yes.
Okay. All right, great. So thank you for joining. And once again, if you have specific questions from the assignment or something like that, it will be really helpful if you can post it in the discussion forum. Mention that it is for the live class, the live session. So I know that it's referred to me, not the content team. But if you can just point out which lecture, which slide, or which video, which time it can just help me solve it fast. Otherwise, I just spend a lot of time looking for it, that where is this part that you have asked me. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So I will end the lecture.
Thank you, madam.
Okay. Thank you. So thank you for joining, and I'll end the class here. Bye. See you next week.